All right, we are just a few days away. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, striking up the live stream with Peter Burns from the SEC Network and ESPN. 9:45 Eastern Time, just a few nights away. Peter, it's finally here.
I need to just find where my razor's at, man. It's kind of been all the off season for us everywhere. So yeah, I'm excited. We're going to be hosting Feinbaum tomorrow, so I'm sure we'll be taking a lot of those calls, getting ready for the season. But it feels like we've been in this talking season, Mark, for a 3.5 years. That's how long it seems since we finally saw Alabama and Georgia in the national championship game.
Absolutely. I say the same thing all the time. I am the first one to be making lists and ranking everything and rating everything. But, man, let me watch some football. Well, finally.
Yeah, I mean, even the week 0 stuff, I couldn't really get into it because, it was kind of a way to kind of dip my toes into the water. But, yeah, man, we get some good games. It's probably not as big of an opening slate as we saw last year. As far as we probably had, I think maybe 6 or 7 really, really extremely good games last year. I think we probably have maybe 2 or 3. Obviously Auburn, Washington is going to be really intriguing. LSU, Miami, even Alabama, Louisville, I think is going to be a little bit more of an interesting game than people give credit for. So, and I think FAU versus Oklahoma as well. I think that one's going to be kind of a tricky little game as well. So, again, this time next week we'll be going, can you believe that happened in the first week of college football?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think Oklahoma was thinking when they scheduled that game, hey, we're adding, UCLA's the headliner for them, but they weren't thinking FAU, man, this is going to be something we got to think about and actually show up for. Is there anything been going on since that first week of August when the boys hit camp, that anything to sway your opinion or judgment of any team or particular situation?
It's kind of interesting. We saw a lot of the quarterbacks, especially in the SEC, get named this week. Felipe Franks down in Florida. It's going to be interesting to see what he's able to do with not Urban Meyer. I was just thinking about Urban Meyer on some other stuff. But what Dan Mullen can do with Felipe, and he struggled immensely last year. So I'm intrigued to see with that. I'm also intrigued really with what's going to happen at Mississippi State. And the reason why I say that, Mark, is that's going to be a really good team this year. This is probably as good of a team that Mississippi State, frankly, may have ever had down in Starkville, even better than the 2014 team that Dak Prescott led, the Bulldogs, whenever that, #1 team in the country for 5 weeks. So with Nick Fitzgerald going to be missing the opener due to a suspension, that's interesting because they really wanted him to play in that opener because that would be the first game back from the ankle injury that he had. Remember, he suffered that in the Ole Miss game, the Egg Bowl. So, so week 2 for Mississippi State now becomes a little bit more interesting because that's the first time you'll see Nick Fitzgerald going into Little Manhattan up there at Kansas State, where that's just kind of an awkward place to play for teams. So I'm intrigued with that. And then again, I think when you look at USC, Southern Cal going ahead with in naming a quarterback that should be in high school right now, a reclassified kid, that's a pretty gutsy move as we start an important year for Helton and the Trojans out there in Southern Cal.
At USC. That's going on at USC, not at Portland State.
Yeah, think about that, right? That in a weird way, I think it goes to show you that high school coaches have adapted and they're utilizing more of a collegiate scheme on the higher end high school teams, and vice versa too. The college squads are saying, hey, we don't need a 700 play playbook. Let's get these kids that are athletes ready to play right now in a place where they can succeed. I talked to Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, and I said, how big is your playbook? And I'm thinking, hey, it's probably 250 plays, 300 plays. He goes, we have about 16 core plays. Now, we did have different routes and different options you can take off of that. But there's really 16 plays a kid has to learn to play football here. And I'm thinking, wow, okay, that's a little bit more interesting of an approach that some of the schools take. And I think that's why freshmen are making more of an impact now than ever.
Maybe Clay Helton's learned from what happened 2 years ago when he had Sam Darnold standing on the sideline. They lost twice in the first month of the season. Then they went on the big run and won the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and especially now with a 4-game red shirt, Mark, I think that plays into it, that you can play some kids earlier and not worry about burning their red shirt if they're not quite ready. Having been able to play a quarter of the season and still maybe redshirt them is a huge break for younger players in college football.
Who's your quarterback in the SEC? Is it Drew Lock, Jarrett Stidham? Who's the best guy?
I like Stidham. Again, I think of what he showed once he got comfortable last year with Chip Lindsey's offense. Now, of course, it helps when you got Kerryon Johnson and Cam Petway running the rock for him. But I think Gus Malzahn has kind of found a good balance with an offensive coordinator. I think he feels comfortable, and I really like what Stidham's going to be able to do. Now, they did suffer a couple of injuries in the spring. Will Hastings, who's kind of their Wes Welker type guy, but they should be back mid-season. And I think Stidham, to me, is a guy that has an opportunity. If I was looking for I don't know, I guess a dark horse for Heisman, I think he's 25-1. Stidham would be a great bet because if Auburn has a success I think that they can have, it will be because Jarrett Stidham had a monster year.
And Peter, it's got to be Tua in Tuscaloosa. I know Nick Saban's writing this out, but
yeah,
right?
I think he definitely has by far the bigger ceiling. I mean, you know what you got in Jalen. Jalen, you have a very, very sound quarterback that's not going to turn the ball over, that can make plays. And, oh, by the way, he's played for a couple of national championships. Now, you still need for Alabama to get over that hump. And so is the rest of Alabama good enough to go with the flyer of Tua? Probably so. But guess what? They could possibly still win a national championship with Jalen Hurts as well, too. You know, he's developed a little bit more this offseason. So, again, Mark, it's like going into somebody's garage and you're trying to decide, am I driving the Ferrari or the Maserati? Like, either way, Alabama football will be okay with either one of those guys.
And LSU, Auburn, they have to deal with schedules that don't afford them the luxury, especially LSU, where you look at that Alabama setup. I know that they scheduled Louisville, that's certainly a quality team, a top 25 to 30 team. But until November, they may not play anybody ranked.
Yeah, and actually the Louisville game really helps them because I think it's just enough of a challenge to where they get pushed pretty good, especially Bobby Petrino and that offense. I mean, they're going to score points on Alabama. I would be shocked if they don't score, you know, at least 3 touchdowns on Alabama, because that's a really, really young secondary. And so for me, when you lose 6 guys and a guy like Minkah Fitzpatrick, man, that's tough. So I think it's perfect opener for Alabama because they'll have enough firepower. They'll win that game, but they'll have enough good film that they'll be able to address the deficiencies when they play Ole Miss in week 3 and when they play other teams that can pass the ball later into the season.
Got Peter Burns on the line from ESPN. Just a couple more minutes with him. So I hate to say, so pumped up to see college football, but there's so much chalk that seems to be reigning in the Clemson Miami situation, in the ACC that seems to be set. Alabama, Georgia, a little less in the Big Ten with Ohio State, Wisconsin, but Alabama, Georgia.
I mean, that whole Big Ten is crazy this year, right? I mean, you're talking about all. I mean, let's just take the on-field discussions, not everything that's happened in Maryland with DJ Durkin and Urban Meyer at Ohio State, but between Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and then Nebraska, if they can find, you know, kind of something fun with Scott Frost, Iowa is going to be decent. I mean, the Big Ten is a really, really intriguing conference. I know you always consider me an SEC honk, which I am. I think that I was
going to tell you, remind you, this is recorded.
I know, right? I'm going to get the cease and desist letter from the
SEC. Just when you do the big time stuff, we record these too. So, yeah.
But man, I can't wait to watch that because I think that, you know, the Big Ten actually has more title contenders than the SEC this year. I think SEC has 3.5 if you consider Mississippi State being a kind of a long shot. I think there's 5 legitimate title contenders in the Big Ten.
So back to the premise that Alabama and Georgia have this locked down. I don't think they're going to contend necessarily seriously, but the 2 wild cards that kind of intrigue me are Florida in the East and LSU in the West. Who do you think could jump out, or just are you intrigued by?
No, I mean, actually Auburn. I think Auburn, too, in the West, you know, you go back and look, I think there's a distinct chance that you could see an undefeated Auburn team and an undefeated Alabama team meet in the Iron Bowl. And the losers still have a chance to play in the college football playoff. On the other side, I don't think they're ready to quite take the jump, maybe one more year. But Will Muschamp's team, South Carolina, could pose a lot of problems for Georgia, especially week 2, because Georgia has to go into Williams-Brice Stadium. And, you know, they lost a lot on defense, Mark. So I think a new fast-paced offense with Jake Bentley. They got Deebo Samuel, who's impressive, Tyson Williams, Rico Dowdle, who can run the rock. And Will Muschamp can find a way to play with Kirby Smart. I think that's the credit that Will Muschamp has. Sometimes he doesn't have the talent of the team across the other sideline, but he finds a way to kind of duct tape and baling wire together a team. And he knows his buddy Kirby Smart pretty well, so that's going to be an interesting chess match week 2.
Peter, before we let you get on your way there, what's the assignment for you look like this football season?
Yeah, kind of crazy. So I do a morning show every morning on Sirius XM 7 to 10 a.m. with me and Marcus Spears. And then on Mondays now, they just announced, kind of like the Paul Feinbaum show, they're going to be simulcasting our Monday morning show on SEC Network, which will be really cool. And then I host all the stuff on SEC Network at night. And, you'll see me at the halftime of the noon and 4 p.m. games on SEC Network. And then I got a 3-hour show on ESPN radio on Sunday. So no sleep for the weary, but it beats working for a living,
Yeah, you've got a few things going on there. And that Marcus Spears, he seems like you can't help but have fun with that guy.
He is, man. You know what? We just got a bunch of good dudes. Booger McFarland was with us. Laura Rutledge is a blast. Maria Taylor was a blast. The only boring person is really Greg McElroy. I mean, he's so boring, but damn if he's not good at what he does. So I love our favorite Ginger. He's a good guy, but yeah, man, I just can't wait for the season, and it's gonna be a blast.
I guess when you got a ring on your finger, you can do whatever you want. But those other two LSU guys, they've got them as well, but they don't make that excuse.
Yeah, that's the case. But no, I think. This first week, each and every year, there's something that makes us kind of go, wow, I did not expect that to happen. So I can't wait to see what it's going to be. I think it honestly will be LSU beating Miami handily is going to be the wow factor, because I think Dave Aranda and his defense is for real. And now they got this kid, Christian Fulton, the cornerback who got reinstated by the NCAA. I think that's 2 lockdown corners. You have maybe the best linebacker in all of college football in Devin White, and you have some beast up front for LSU. I think that could be a dangerous, dangerous team.
Hey, Peter, if I try to track you down this year and I text you and it's like 3 minutes later and it's already 27, texts down the list, I'll completely understand. So you got a lot going on. I appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, man, I'm busy, but I always try to talk football with you because it's smart questions and we have a blast. So thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
Definitely a lot of fun. I'm going to stay on here and check out the live chat. I'll let you drop off.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon, okay?
Peter, appreciate it. Peter Burns, SEC Network. Just the best when you consider everything he's got going on. You got a taste of it right there. And there's probably a whole lot more than that. And he's got a little one at home. So he's got a whole lot going, and he makes time to join us for a few minutes to talk some SEC football and the nation. Peter loves college football across the board, so he wants to talk it up across the nation. Gave some props to the Big Ten in terms of quality depth this year. And I'll check out what you guys have. As you have probably seen in the span of today, we've released some videos, of course, highlighting the Big Ten, our previews and predictions for Minnesota and Illinois. As soon as I get off here, I'm going to work on Wisconsin. I'll probably tap dance a little around the Big Ten and get to the big teams in the East, get to Wisconsin, Iowa, and make sure that I've got them down, and then we'll fill in the gaps with the likes of Maryland and Rutgers on Thursday as we lead into Thursday night's games. I plan on being here late night Thursday after the football is completed. Some really good games, especially Northwestern Purdue, of course. That's an 8 o'clock game. They should be wrapped up around 11:30, depending on what's going on elsewhere. We should be doing a live stream, instant analysis of Purdue, Northwestern, and anything else I caught. And then you caught as well on Thursday night. And then remember, tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Eastern time, we're talking SEC. We're doing a big SEC preview with Mike LaValle from Last Word on College Football. Also, Stephen M. Smith from Touchdown, Alabama. Then we turn around at 11 o'clock and we do a Pac-12 season preview with Tony Siracusa from Last Word on College Football. In addition to those guys helping me host as lead analysts, we also will bring on a number of people, as we did just this past Sunday with the ACC, Ryan Cantor, Mike McDaniel, James Coleman, all sorts of guests, including Joey Weaver, and others that helped us break down the ACC. All right, I'll see what you guys have, and then I need to go to work on the best conference in college football, the best top half of a conference in college football. I'm still going to say that the SEC, without really giving it a full measure of thought, that the SEC is still the best. But you hear from Peter Burns, SEC Network. It's always a good discussion with him, and he does a tremendous job there and really helps us out as well. All right. What do we got on here? We got Austin Jensen talking up some LSU football. And again, we have some issues with the live chat on my other computer. So my other computer, it's got about 7 or 8 years of use on it, and I've worked it pretty hard. And if any of you own Apple products, you know how the mouse track works here, the tracking pad, I should say, whatever they call it. And then once I blew that thing up, forget it. Can I get it back to normal size? I guess I'll refresh the page and see what we've got. Is that going to help me? No, it's not going to. There we go. I want to read some comments, or I'll just go on my phone. We'll read some comments from right there. So hope you guys are having a good night on a Tuesday night with college football just 2 days away. We just wrapped up with Peter Burns. Great night tomorrow night, as I mentioned, with the Pac-12 preview at 11 Eastern, following the SEC at 9 o'clock. Do I do a Big Ten preview? I'm sure all of you guys are going to say, sure, do a Big Ten preview. Let's knock it out. But I'm only 2 teams down in the Big Ten with 12 to go, and I definitely want to get to Notre Dame as well. So it's going to be a heavy lift over the next couple of days. The off-season scheduling here at Mark Rogers TV is going to be down pat. We're going to have a formula and have it all knocked out. I'm going to plan the off-season next season after the national championship game, so we're not running into these kind of issues. But hey, you guys don't complain. You guys are just there for me. So it's good stuff. Let me see what is on anybody's mind tonight.
When you're America's best value, you don't need to resort
Okay.
to traditional sales tactics.
YouTube's probably going to check me for that. All right. What do we have on the live stream? Anything interesting from you guys? And if I could read the thing. You know, I've come to a point in life that the bifocals have been suggested by including my eye doctor. So. And also, of course, the phone number is going to be a must as well. All right. We're taking it easy here tonight. So definitely the best conference, the Big Ten, according to NCIS Fanatic 21. I think Northwestern beats Purdue. That's the other thing that Wednesday nights will mean here at Mark Rogers TV. Good reminder there, NCIS Fanatic 21. Predictions on Wednesday night. Predictions. I will release my predictions for week 1 tomorrow night, and that's going to be a Wednesday staple here at Mark Rogers TV. All right. That's about as much as we've got. Yeah, the glasses would help, but I actually have contacts in. Can you believe that? That means I can see everything past about 5 feet, but I can't see anything close to me. All right. The ACC needs Clemson and Florida State, so I sadly doubt that would ever happen. Should Clemson and Florida State move to the SEC East and move Missouri to the SEC West? What are we talking about, people? You guys are doing conference realignment with 2 days left before the season. I think Wisconsin loses to Penn State and Michigan this year. 28 AD 28, 20 years of BCS and playoff title games. OSU is the only Big Ten team to play in one. Every other conference has at least 2 teams, the SEC 6, the Big 12 3, the ACC 2, the Pac 12 2. Even defunct Big East had 2. That, of course, being Miami and Virginia Tech. NCIS Fanatic 21. I don't understand the hype around Wisconsin. Alex Hornibrook played terribly in the Big Ten championship game. I'm working on my Badger notes right now. And I could probably just do a preview without doing notes, but we want to be diligent with our note taking. Alex Hornibrook, I think, could have a really nice season. Yeah, he's turned it over too many times. His Big Ten championship game was not stellar. His game against Miami in the Orange Bowl was stellar, though. Michigan teams, according to Austin Jensen, are too inconsistent, and it seems like Penn State can't win must-win games. Now, Austin, are you taking that from just last season? The Penn State had 2 must-win games, and they lost both of them. Michigan State, Ohio State. Well, wasn't the Michigan game a must-win game? And they won that one. Wasn't going out to Iowa possibly a must-win game for Penn State to stay in the Eastern race? And they won that on the final play of the game. So when teams are expected to win every week, the wins, we just kind of check them off. Boom, 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 boom. And then when they lose one, it's, wow, what happened? What's wrong with you? Oh, yeah, you beat 4 really good teams in a row. Yeah, but you're supposed to do that. What happened here? Austin, I think that's a little bit of just a narrative that you've taken from a couple games last season and losing at Michigan State and losing at Ohio State. So keep in mind, both of those games on the road for Penn State, and they lost it by the closest of margins, final play type situations, and obviously the big Ohio State comeback. But Penn State won the games that they needed to win 2 years ago in winning the Big Ten. They beat Wisconsin. They beat Ohio State. They beat Michigan State. Obviously, Sparty was down that year, but they won the games that they were needing to win the Big Ten championship. 28-80-28. You got to explain this to me. Ohio State is the only proven Big Ten title contender. Well, they won it last year. So, yeah, they're the only team that's proven most recently that they can win the Big Ten championship, but Wisconsin's not proven. Michigan State, Penn State, Michigan, to varying degrees. Michigan 2 years ago came that close to playing for the Big Ten championship. NCIS Fanatic 21. I don't think Louisville will score 3 times versus Bama. And I was going to challenge Peter on that point. I feel the same way. I'm feeling a 42-17 game for Bama. Austin, I have Malzahn and Ogeron as my first coach fired this season. Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn goes 8-4. He's not going to get fired this year. And I got to think that that's pretty much the floor for Auburn. The state of Florida is the best college football state. George is chiming in. I just tried to shut them down. It was really quick now, unless they beat LSU. I don't know what you guys are talking about at that point. Okay. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Appreciate you joining the live stream. This one may not be too long. We had Peter Burns on from the SEC Network. Tomorrow night, again, we preview the SEC 2018 at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. We preview the Pac-12 at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Prior to that, I may do a Big Ten special, and then the Big 12 is going to say, hey, you left us out. And yeah, this year, I'm going to leave somebody out, and it may be the Big Ten as well, because we are releasing videos, as you can see, with all the Big Ten teams. Minnesota and Illinois are down. I'm going to jump to the contenders to make sure that they're out there and that people have a couple days to take in Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Iowa, Wisconsin before the openers on Thursday night. All right. Maybe Ed will get fired after Sunday. So remember that we've got a newsletter that will be coming out on Monday. Monday is the inaugural initial newsletter. And for those of you who have signed up for the newsletter, I know that you're not so much waiting and anticipating for football. You're more so waiting for my newsletter on Monday. I know that there's that much anticipation out there for the first release of the Mark Rogers TV weekly newsletter. And I got to come up with a name for it. Does anybody have a suggestion for a name that's not the Mark Rogers TV newsletter and that is not Mark Rogers TV Insider? Insider For the first person that ever came up with that term, they were brilliant. For the 83,407 people after that used the term insider, not so much. So I would like to stay away from insider. Somebody made that suggestion early in the process, and I completely agree that we'll stay away from insider if at all possible. But if you've got a good name for the weekly newsletter or the kind of club that we're forming, the group that we're forming, then please pass that along. I'm getting about 8,000 views over the last 2 days, so I appreciate that. That's great. With 8,000 views probably coming from 2,000 or 3,000 people, I'm thinking that, and with 5,200, what's the number? 5,325 on subscribers, 5,325 subscribers, that I could do better with the weekly newsletter. I know that it's very young, it's very new, and then once it hits, and it's just gonna the excitement and the feedback is just going to spread like wildfire, that the emails will flood in after that. But for right now, if you want to be on the ground floor, a charter member of the Mark Rogers TV blank club, group, team, as part of the weekly newsletter, then please send me your email. Send it to MarkRogersTV at Gmail, MarkRogersTV at Gmail, and we will get you on the weekly newsletter. And I understand some people, and I'm the same way about giving out my email address, but it is 2018, and I have people's phone numbers who I don't even know who they are at this point. So understand that you're getting my email as well. So I'm giving my email address out there. So I'm just as susceptible and vulnerable as you are. So I'm not going to do anything with your email address, except send you a weekly, first-rate, insightful, entertaining college football newsletter each and every Monday. That's all I'm going to do with your email. And I reserve the right at some point to maybe send out a special mailing, but otherwise it's just going to be one per week. So I'm not going to clutter up your inbox with a bunch of garbage. Lamar Stevens, man, people have it out for Ed and LSU. It's funny because LSU has been the most consistent team in the SEC over the past 20 years. Oh, have they? I guess. If we're going to go the past 20 years, we're going back to 1998. And Bama was spotty from 1998 to 2008. So I get it. You're picking your years very, very strategically, Lamar. For the past 20 years, LSU has won 2 national championships. Auburn, if we want to make that comparison, has made it to 1. I would bet, I believe that you're most likely right, that over the past 20 years, somebody could do the math. If you really want to do something for the next 30 minutes, forget Vandy and Kentucky and those teams. Just take the contenders in the SEC, the perennial contenders, the teams that have been the best programs over the past 20 years. Go back to the start of the BCS era, 1998, when Tennessee won the national championship. And I would say the only players in play here are Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Florida, Georgia. That's pretty much it. That's good enough. Nobody else is going to contend for this title of best team in the SEC over the past 20 years. We know that Alabama's had the best run. Even if you exclude half the years, the first 10, the last 10 have made up for it with 5 national championships. They've been the best team and program over the 20 years. It's not even close. But if you're going to go, Lamar, with your specific words here of consistent winner, it's going to be close between those 5 programs as to who has the best winning percentage, the best record since 1998. That would be fun to work out. When did LSU win the national championship before 2007? 2003. 2003, split national title. LSU won the game, the BCS game, over Oklahoma at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, 21-14. Meanwhile, USC was winning the Rose Bowl, and the LSU-Oklahoma game was never really in doubt. Oklahoma stayed within the score, but LSU's defense had it in hand, didn't give up big plays. It was just a butt kicking, but Oklahoma was good enough to keep it close, but LSU was significantly superior. That we were all sitting there, if you remember, on that night thinking, man, if only USC and LSU could play. Yeah, Clemson alum 98. They shared one. Yes, that's what I'm talking about right there. It was like 30, 04, and 07. 04 was the USC win over Oklahoma 55-19 at the Orange Bowl to win the national championship. 03, yes, it is. There you go, 28 AD 28. 03. Yeah, hard to believe, Lamar. LSU prior to Nick Saban, 4-8 in 1999 and 2000. When LSU is considered and grouped in with the blue bloods of college football, I take a little exception with that. If you look at LSU from the time I started watching college football in the late 70s up until Nick Saban in 2001, his second year, they won the SEC championship game, won the Sugar Bowl. And if somebody can tell me who LSU beat in the Sugar Bowl in 2001, the 2001 season, Sugar Bowl 02, then I will be mighty impressed if you don't look this up and you know this. The score was 47-34. To think about this team now playing in a Sugar Bowl is unfathomable. So I'm throwing that question out there. But from the late 70s until 2000, that's 22 seasons. LSU was a little over 500. They had a couple stretches there. They went to a couple Sugar Bowls in the 80s against Nebraska. Got their butts kicked twice, 30-15 and 28-10 by Nebraska. They went to a couple other decent bowl games, but generally their winning percentage from the late 70s to 2000s about 55%. So yeah, they weren't that strong for a long, long time. And then came Nick Saban, and he set it up for the rest of the crew. And now LSU is a power that we expect to be a top 10 team in the nation. And them losing 4 and 5 games over the past several seasons has us scratching our heads because LSU has players, and they have been so good and were so good from 01 through 11 or 12 or 13 that we believe LSU should be a power, but it's not been that long. Lamar Stevens, I'm 26, Mark. Okay, you're 26. I wish I was 26. Lamar, thank you. Did you know that, though? Please be honest. Did you look that up or did you know that? Yes, Illinois won a share of the Big Ten championship that year. They did not go to the Rose Bowl. That was 2001. So the Rose Bowl was the national championship game that year. Nebraska, not in the Big Ten at the time, in the Big 12. The Big 12. And I was going to say the Big 8. The Big 12, it was Big 8 prior to 96. Anyway, Nebraska, Miami, it was the first Rose Bowl that did not feature the Big 10 and the Pac-12 in forever, going back to the 40s or 30s. And that was the national championship game. So the Big 10 champion went to the Sugar Bowl, went to another BCS game, and Illinois had no answers for LSU's speed or talent. All right, guys. Appreciate it. I think Illinois beat us that year too, didn't they? Something like 34-22. I do believe that 34-22 was the final score. NCIS Fanatic 21. Craig Krenzel played that game in place of a suspended Steve Belisari, who had a DUI incident, missed the Illinois game. And then Krenzel played against Michigan the next week. And that was the game that was infamous for fulfilling the Jim Tressel promise when he took the job, that Ohio State would beat Michigan in Ann Arbor, something that they had not done since 1987. They fulfilled the promise. They won, which propelled them to a national championship season the next year. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys jumping on board. Like, comment, subscribe. Please do all those things for me. It helps tremendously. You guys just don't know. If you guys can just give the click to the like, even if you don't agree with me. Uh, my thought is that if I watch quality content and I really like what the channel is delivering, even if I don't agree with that specific take, I still think it's quality, it's logical, it makes sense. Whatever it's supposed to be, it's entertaining. So I click the like button, and I need to do that more. So I would ask you to click the like, give me your comments. So as you go through these videos with all my predictions, give me your prediction. I'll take your prediction. All right, 28 Mark, what year did you start watching college football? I started in 1978. 1978. There you go. That's my year, 1978. Kind of 1977. I remember a few games from 77. But yeah, 78 was pretty much my year across the board just to be a sports fan. Baseball, NFL, college football, that's when I dove in like a maniac. 1978. We can't forget that Mullen lost to an FCS school to South Alabama, correct? Well, they were in the Power Five at that, or not the Power Five, but they were not an FCS at that point, were they? They were a group of five. No, they lost to South Alabama, right? We're talking Mississippi State and Dan Mullen. What other game did they lose? I don't remember. You remember the Ohio State Oklahoma game from 1978. So let's get this straight. That was 1977. That was the Uwe von Schamann kick at the wire, 29-28 Oklahoma. That was Oklahoma went up 21-0. Buckeyes came back, led 28-20. Oklahoma came back and scored the last 9 points to win it 29-28. Uwe von Schamann, who was a place kicker for. This is what I'm going to do now. Going forward, when I come across things where you can fill in the blank to show your football knowledge, then I will allow you to do so. So Uwe von Schamann was a place kicker for a long time in the NFL 4. First person to get it gets a big smile and wave from me. We lost a lot in Billy Sims after going up 20-0. Yes, the Dolphins. Very good. The Miami Dolphins, and kicked for that Super Bowl team with, here's one for you. Hey, 19 Savage, good to see you. It's been a while. Haven't seen your name for quite some time. 19 Savage getting fired up for the big Texas-Maryland showdown at FedEx Field on Saturday. Sugar Bowl versus Penn State and versus Arkansas. How do I sign up for the newsletters? Zavalon Johnson, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Please forgive me if I didn't, and let me know, because I want to pronounce people's names correctly. You sign up for the newsletter by just sending an email to MarkRogersTV at Gmail. MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Send me just a note. You don't have to say anything. I would like to have your name. A couple people have not sent their names, but that's fine if you just want to send your email, just so I can send out the newsletter to you. But I would like to have your name as well, and that's all I need. Crazy that Oklahoma doesn't play Nebraska. So they will be playing. We had a live stream this offseason, if you guys remember, where we went through all the future schedules. For all the Power Fives. This is the kind of stuff we do here at Mark Rogers TV, is we are for the college football maniac, nut, the nerds out there, the geeks that love college football. Love the history, love the nuts and bolts, love the schedules. That's why I break down schedules. I ranked schedules this year. I broke down what was wrong with all the Power 5 schedules in conference and out of conference. Did those. But in that particular video, what we did there, I'm losing my train of thought, is, yeah, I completely lost it. Man. What do we got? What do we got here? Shoot. I completely lost what I was talking about with Okay, we'll keep it up. I'm getting senile. We're talking about age here and watching college football since 1978. Yeah, I must be losing it. All right, ready for the LSU game? Oklahoma, Nebraska. That's what I was talking about. We've got videos out there, and I know it's tough to find old videos on my site because I've got a zillion videos. But if you guys missed this, I thought this was fun. It's more for the off season. But we went through the future schedules of every team in the Power Five, and we just went through and talked about them and talked about whether that was a interesting series, a good series, those teams should play. So Oklahoma, Nebraska, they just didn't sign a home and home, but I believe they signed for 4 years. And they're spread out between like 2022 and 2030, something in that range. Yes, Austin, 2 more nights. Can't wait. Hey, Zavalon Johnson, please do me a favor because this live chat's going to get wiped out and I'm not going to be able to find your. Can you send that to MarkRogersTV at Gmail? Just send an email to MarkRogersTV at Gmail instead of leaving your email address right there. West End, I'm sorry. This is the eyes. This is the problem with the eyes again. West End 04. What is good? Canes win on Sunday. Well, I'm going to let you guys know tomorrow night what I think is going to happen on Sunday and Monday and Saturday and Thursday and Friday. We've got Stanford and San Diego State on Friday. And I know that Rashad Penny's gone, but in San Diego State won that game against the Cardinal at home last year. But San Diego State Stanford on Friday. We'll do a live stream most likely after that game. Bama plays Texas and Notre Dame in future seasons. Ohio State has back-to-back seasons coming up in which they don't just play Notre Dame or Texas. They play Notre Dame and Texas. Now, that's a schedule. Notre Dame and Texas back-to-back years for the Buckeyes coming up. You got the Aggies when they play Clemson. All right. I'm sure you guys just can't wait for me to release my Wisconsin preview and prediction. So I'm going to get to work on that. It's been a very long day, but I want to put my nose to the grindstone to get the rest of the Big Ten done here in the next few days. And guys, if anybody can come up with a good name, this is not my wheelhouse of coming up with names for stuff, except for Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. But when it comes to this newsletter, this group, can you come up with a name? Give me a name. If you have any great names for that, maybe we call it The Voice. And this seems a bit strange. The Voice. Whatever we're going to call it, we'll come up with something. All right, Drake, thanks for joining NCIS Fanatic 21, Zavalon Johnson. Yeah, send your email to MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Everybody else who wants the newsletter, send an email to MarkRogersTV at Gmail. We will see you guys soon, actually tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern with the SEC preview special and then the Pac-12 preview special at 11 Eastern. Maybe we talk college football before that, and we will do that. The College Football Genius Society. That's a thought. We're headed in the right direction. That's kind of like where I like going with that. This is for the smart fan, you. All right, we will see you guys next time. Tomorrow night, Wednesday night, Pac-12, SEC, maybe the Big Ten or the Big 12, but definitely the SEC at 9 and the Pac-12 at 11. We will see you next time. Thank you so much.